Ryan Kelly having breakfast down in Baton Rouge, looking at his mobile banking app and probably, whoa, I might buy the whole restaurant. Rob Brown in Memphis, Brendan Martin in Ocala, Florida. And man, our prayers are with the people out in the Gulf, Jamaica, that Cat 5 hurricane coming up. It's going to look.
Ocho Rio is not looking good.
No, it is not. I hope to God it just.
So it's going to jag a little to the left, and it's going to just slam into Ocho Rio.
Yeah, it's just a mess, and I mean, hopefully people make it through it okay. We got a great show today. It is Tuesday, October 28th of 2025. We've got Jordan Davis Hill, 247 Sports, covers the Georgia Bulldogs, also does a great podcast, must watch, the Junkyard Dog podcast. Jordan, a true grit journalist. I'll also be joined by Lauren Meadows at 15 after, GatorBetMedia.com and the Lowdown with Lauren Meadows. And Florida, Georgia, it's a big one. It's Saturday in Jacksonville. Also, Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, checks in with us in the second half hour. And Rodney Orr, Tider Insider. Lot to do. Again, take pictures with your cell phone or the QR codes. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Share us and like us. Brendan is right. You cannot do that enough. It helps us so much. We put out this content. It is a passion. If I told you what Brendan does behind the scenes, and it'll blow your mind. And look at that guy there. He shares and likes us. I know he does.
Happy Halloween, by the way.
Happy Halloween, which will be Friday on this show. We'll have to come up with something really scary. Like I said, I'm going to come dressed as a 9-game SEC regular season schedule. That will keep people up. Scary music on the way.
Scary music on the way. Let's bring in
Jordan.
Let's bring in Jordan because I'm scared to play them this weekend and the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, my friend.
It's terrifying, man. Jordan, how are you?
Doing great, and it's a rivalry when I hear Rob say Florida, Georgia. That'll start a fight. Georgia side says Georgia, Florida. It's, to me, that's quintessential college football. Which team you say first, man?
Yeah.
Those are fighting words.
It's the last one in the Ville for a while. We'll be next year and the year after that and the year after that, not in Jacksonville. So.
Yeah, that's a special place. Jordan, matching up. Florida's had an off week to try to get, and they're getting ready. And Georgia's had an off week; they're getting ready. Gunnar Stockton, I want to give you credit. You were right about him. He's got one interception on the season. He's not 6'5", 225, perfect arm, doesn't have all that. He just wins. He finds excuses to win. Take it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's a throwback of an old school player. And, I think he's had to learn some lessons along the way. I think the biggest thing, keeping his body out of harm's way. He's taken some hits that I think afterwards he decided, you know what, I should probably not do that again. But on Monday, we talked to Kirby Smart, and Kirby just raved about his decision-making and what he's done and to continue that process. And I think last few games you've seen him getting more comfortable, going through his progression, staying in the pocket, trusting that offensive line in front of him, which has not always been easy. We're talking about a line that there's been 2 true freshmen who's played quite a bit of football this year. But I think that he has sort of understood now what is expected of him every single play. Kirby talked about him understanding what they need from him on any given play. I think he's done a lot better job of that. Last time out against Ole Miss, there's people talking about Heisman buzz. I don't know how realistic that is, but it speaks to how he's played, and it speaks to why, Georgia has taken one loss, but they're still right in this fight for the SEC race. Several big games left, but Georgia's right there in the mix, and Gunnar Stockton has a lot to do with that.
Well, he does. And I mean, I go back to the 2 most prolific high school passers in Georgia history. Nick Marshall out of Pineview, and no one talked about that. I think he threw 114 touchdowns. And then comes Gunnar Stockton from Rayburn up in North Georgia. And, that's not nothing, as Chuck Oliver says. I always give him credit. But you look at the offensive line. You just mentioned 2 freshmen playing. And how deep is the Big Red Wall compared to 5 years ago? This may be a dumb question, but I got to ask it.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite as deep, but I think that's just the nature of what's happened to rosters with the transfer portal. Guys that would give you really solid depth behind. And a lot of those guys have moved on now. I think that they are in a really good spot now. That bye week, it's so cliche to say this, but man, it came at the perfect time for the offensive line.
Yeah.
Ole Miss game, that's the first time they had the same starting five in a game. They'd had six different starting lines. Guys moved here and there before the Ole Miss game, and they finally had a repeat of the Tennessee game as far as who started from left tackle all the way down to right tackle, and get those guys back. They got Monroe Freeling feeling a lot better. They got Ernest Green back for his first game since the Tennessee game. What an opportunity for those guys to get healthy. And you look at this Florida game. I mean, to me, the thing that if you're a Georgia fan, if you're concerned about this game, you should be concerned about this Florida defensive front. And they've had injuries they've had to play through. But if you told me Florida made this thing tight, I think it's because that defensive line plays really well. What a great time to get healthy, to try to clean some things up on the front. They're going to be beat up the rest of the way. That's just the nature of playing offensive line in the SEC, but huge break as far as getting that second bye when they did. The key now is just try to stay as healthy as you can, and it starts with a really big matchup with Florida.
All right, so up to this point, Gunnar Stockton aside, who's your best offensive player that really is standing out that you say, hey, he's better than I thought even?
Well, the one name that I would initially say is Colby Young, which is really tough because he got hurt against Ole Miss and seems very doubtful we'll see him again, at least in the regular season. It would probably take a playoff push for him to even have a chance. He had a fractured leg against Ole Miss, and he was fantastic. I'd gotten to calling him Mr. Reliable because he was the guy that not only made catches but just fought for extra yards, even on like plays where they didn't have to have it to convert. I mean, just fighting, trying to get everything he could. So the other name I would say is Chauncey Bowens, who's sort of become part of a 1-2 punch with Nate Frazier. And I mean, Chauncey had a fantastic game against Alabama. He's been consistent. He's dealing a little bit of a calf injury. I think that was the Auburn game. He wasn't quite 100%. He's another guy that, with that bye week, I think will do him really well. Chauncey's a guy that I had people behind the scenes tell me during fall camp, this guy looks like a number one running back. And, I'll say this kind of inside baseball, Rob. Sometimes you take those and you go, all right, how much truth is there really to this? This guy, he's doing better. He'll probably play some, but is he really that good? And the Alabama game showed us, yeah, he is that good. And I think you'll see healthy doses of him and Nate Frazier, who I think deserves a shout out for how he has responded after that Alabama game. Had a really critical fumble, and he's really kept working hard. And then I think he had about 17 carries against Ole Miss. That was a season high. He played really well. Having those two guys as the lead backs, you're going to see them early and often the rest of the year, but especially on Saturday against Florida.
Yeah, and you look at the defense. Glenn Schumann, Kirby Smart, is in there. Dave Bartu talked yesterday, last 20 years, the elite defenses, Kirby's been in charge of 11 of them. There's really nobody close. He's that good. It's hard to have a lockdown defense with the way offenses are nowadays and the depth situation. You got to be just good enough. How do you grade this? A, B, C, D, F? I mean, I know it's got to be a B or a C in your opinion.
Probably a C.
Wow.
And part of it is because of the standard at Georgia. Yeah. And, the slow starts, especially, they've just struggled to get teams off the field. And, it was really, made even worse. Ole Miss, first 5 possessions, 5 touchdowns. But, I mean, the thing you have to give them credit for, and it's worth pointing out, Rob, I know a lot of my UGA buddies would agree, hey, C's get degrees. That's still a passing grade. That they get stops when they have to. And, that is not a way you want to live. If you want to be a championship team, you can't play this kind of defense against like an Ohio State and Indiana. With the way they're moving the ball, you have to get stops or at least create turnovers. That's something Georgia has struggled with. But, yeah, it's a statement to the standard of how Georgia plays. I mean, because, they pitched second half shutouts against Alabama, against Auburn. They forced – 2 3-and-outs, and then forced a turnover on downs in the fourth quarter against Ole Miss. So there's credit due when it comes to, getting the stops when you have to have them. But it's all of us watching are like, why can't you get at least a few of those earlier in games? And the one thing I'll say, kind of to the standard we're talking about. Kirby was asked on Monday what he wants to see better, and he said better tackling. And I went, from this Georgia defense, I went and looked through Pro Football Focus. Georgia is credited with 40 missed tackles. That's nearly half of who's number 2 in the SEC. I think it might be Missouri that's next up, and they have like 70. So even with what Kirby wants to see cleaned up, they're still the best in the SEC. That's just kind of the standard that Georgia's at. It's a high bar to hit. They haven't done it yet, but I think that bye week might have been as big for the defense as anybody else.
I mean, here's a significant stat. If I'm correct, let me know. If I'm wrong, tell me. In the fourth quarter, Trinidad Chambliss was 1 of 9 for Ole Miss. That's important. You're holding someone down like that. That's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, with a game on the line, I mean, they were able to get to Trinidad Chambliss, and the pass rush and that defensive front deserves a lot of credit because it's a unit. It's probably gotten the most criticism around Georgia this year. They just struggle to get to the quarterback, but I thought that they did things not only to pressure him, but if you can't get to him, hey, bat the ball down. There were a couple of those. Xavier McLeod, Josh Horton on the play that essentially sealed the game for Georgia on fourth down. He bats it down, and nobody can catch it, and it's a turnover on down. So, yeah, that front, they still need to play better. They've got to be able to affect quarterbacks more consistently. But against Ole Miss, like I said, they found ways. If you can't get to them, knock that ball down, and let's see if we can live to fight, live to see another day.
Yeah, and so you look now at this matchup with Florida. What is it that's going to keep you up at night? Because they're going to have an interim coach. They're going to have a lot of things they can install new, but you are who you are by November 1st. It's hard to, zebras don't change their stripes, just their watering holes. How much can they change? But also, how much can Georgia change?
Yeah, Kirby was asked about that on Monday as far as what Florida could change. And the point he made was, there's, like you just said, there's not a lot you can change this time of year. Now, you can change things as far as, all right, hey, we really like these plays. Let's really emphasize making sure we use these. And he really stressed tempo, how fast they could go on offense. And that would be something to watch. The matchups I want to be paying attention to, Florida's receivers, there's been flashes. There's been plays that some of these young guys have made again, and they'll be going up against Georgia's secondary that we've seen. They're gettable. They are more vulnerable to giving up plays than we're used to seeing. So let's see if DJ Lagway can take advantage. He was playing pretty well, had a couple completions before he got hurt in this game last November. And I think Florida fans would be quick to remind folks, Florida was leading. It was a 10-3 game when he got hurt. So if they're able to get that passing game going, that would be huge for Florida. And then the matchup we just talked about with Florida's defensive line. When Georgia's had a lot of success on offense, it started with running the football. They want to grind on defenses. They want to wear defenses out. And, Rob, going back to that Auburn game, Auburn just would not let Georgia run the football. That's been Auburn's best strength this year, stopping the run. And it put Georgia in some tough spots, and it put Georgia playing from behind. Florida's got to be able to do that too. They've had a lot of success as well, stopping the run. So that defensive front, Georgia's got to find a way, this offensive line, to open up holes for Chauncey Bowens, Nate Frazier, Josh McCray on short yardage situations. If Florida stops the run, I do think that this will be a 4-quarter fight.
Yeah, and look at the SEC. The number of one-score games this year, it's everywhere. And you know what? To me, Kirby Smart, the way he coaches, he's so intense. Kurt Cignetti, look at his defensive coordinator. 2 top 5 defenses back to back. I know they're in the Big Ten, but I think it says a lot. You got to just keep coaching these kids hard. I think they want it. And so what do you think happens Saturday down in Jacksonville? What's your gut?
I got Georgia 30-23. I do think it's going to be a close game. And I think, we talked about it on our podcast last week. I think that the best thing for Florida as far as winning this game was making a coaching change. You kind of get a shot in the arm. You get some different ideas, some other guys stepping up. calling plays and trying to put Florida in a good situation. And I think you're going to see that. I would not be surprised if Florida takes an early lead and tries to put the pressure on Georgia. But we've seen Georgia play from behind quite a bit. And at the end of the day, I sort of asked, can DJ Lagway win this game? And I just have not seen enough consistency from him. I think you'll see him make plays. But at the end of the day, I think Georgia wins this one by 7. I think it's going to be, we've seen some wild ones in Jacksonville, Rob. I think we're in for another one. But Georgia finds a way. They win this one 30-23. And I know that there's no moral victories in a situation like this for Florida, but they're going to play them tough. And I expect more of the same with what's left of this season.
Yeah, and I think Pete Cordelli said on the show this week, one of our coaches, total net rushing yards for DJ Lagway, 9 for the season. And I don't know, and Gunner, these are just two gritty, really good quarterbacks. I think they can both play in the NFL. I mean, how tall is Gunner, by the way?
I'd have to look. I want to say 6'2", but
yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head.
But he's tough as a linebacker. That's the key. All right, we're going to start talking some basketball soon. I know you were at Media Days down there at the Royal Bohemian in Mountain Brook. 16 men's, 16 women's teams in 2 days. I mean, that's a lot to cover. Tell people how they can follow you, keep up with all your great work. And as always, thank you more than you know for sharing your time with us. It means a lot.
Absolutely. On Twitter at Jordan Davis Hill, on Twitter at Dogs247, Dogs247.com. Go follow the Junkyard Dogcast. That's our podcast. We will have another episode 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central live today. We'll talk Georgia, Florida. We'll talk about some of the other stuff going on. We'll try to figure out who is LSU's next head coach. We're going to solve all the problems today, Rob, on the podcast. So I hope the folks will tune in.
Hey, that's what. And I'll tell you one thing: you can solve all the problems in 45 minutes or less on a podcast. That's what they're for. Thanks, man.
All right, see you.
All right, Lauren Meadows checks in with us. There he is. I didn't see any music coming up. What's up, man?
What's happening, bud?
You're one of the happiest people I know. And I was like talking to Jordan. Football. I tell you, the thing about Pete Cordelli on yesterday morning's show, we got to get Pete to come out of his shell. He just, but
no doubt.
And that's the thing. You're from Ohio. I love it, folks. I get to do the show, man. Lauren lets me come on with him Tuesday nights on this channel, The Lowdown with Lauren Meadows, tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's a lot of fun, man. A lot of truth said. And you know that Florida program, but you're from Ohio. You know the Buckeyes and all. You know college football. God, it's still the greatest game. As frustrated as we get. I got 4 kids. I get frustrated with them, but I still love them.
Absolutely.
The game is just this one in Jacksonville Saturday. It's just one of those iconic rivalries I grew up with. No one with blood in their veins will forget 1980. And then people won't forget all Spurrier's 11-1 against Georgia. So I set the stage. Here's the ball. It's yours, Lauren.
I think the first thing is the last game played in Jacksonville for 2 years. Atlanta next year and Tampa the year after that. So, somebody wants to get the last lick in Jacksonville for a while. So that's one thing. But two, obviously you have Billy Gonzalez taking over for Billy Napier. What will the offense look like? A lot of Florida people looking forward to see, will this be a change in DJ Lagway? We've seen improvements. Wow. We've seen him play better, but we still seen some of those head scratchers like, what are you doing, DJ? And will Florida make the commitment to the 3rd and 1, the 3rd and 2, give Jaden Bob the ball that can extend drives and just do the right thing offensively? And then, you look at a guy like Gunnar Stockton, who's playing really well with a banged up secondary at Florida. I mean, you don't know who they're going to roll out there. They basically had a walk-on that had 15 tackles the other day against Mississippi State. What does this team look like? Does Cormani McClain return? Does Devin Moore return? And can they get that back end shored up? Because the defensive line is playing well, playing healthy. The linebackers have been great, the great young linebackers with Childs, Graham, Robinson. Mm-hmm. They've been playing extremely well. But can Florida cherish the football, not turn it over, and keep it interesting into the 4th quarter? We saw last year when they were clearly overmatched, but able to hang in there. The defense buckled up. But, what does this game do? What does it look like in the fourth quarter? And, I think everybody kind of, looked at this game with 7 weeks to go, or 5 games to go, 7 weeks, I think, something like that. Can Florida get to bowl eligibility, which I think with everything that has happened, for them to have a meaningful game in early December would be something. So, you look at the schedule, where do those wins come from? But I think that, a lot of people are interested to see, is there going to be true 10 personnel on the field for the first time under Billy Napier, where there's actually 4 wide receivers. He mentioned the young people that they're doing a great job. Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown III, and then you got guys like Tank Abrams. You got guys like, J. Michael Sturdivant that can stretch the field. Are those guys that can make a difference? And does that give Florida an edge? Because now DJ Lagway can see a little bit. We started to see him use the feet a little bit against Mississippi State, starting to maybe get his legs back up under him. And then does that open running lanes for Jaden Ba? You possibly could get Jacoby Jackson back. We'll find out on Wednesday. KD Daniels. So, obviously Georgia will be favored in this game. I haven't seen the spread, because I'm about that business. You line up and you play football, but I'm sure Georgia is favored, but not by as much as many would think looking at the records. But, I told somebody, it's funny, if DJ Lagway throws 2 picks against LSU instead of 5, and you really don't have the phantom offensive pass interference against South Florida, this is a totally different narrative. You know why? Because now they're 5-2 and Billy Napier is still the head coach. And they're thinking, man, if Florida can only drop 1 more game, they're a playoff team. It's crazy when you look at it that way, Rob. I mean, it's unbelievable how this thing is just totally changed course.
Well, I mean, you look at Florida's roster, it's the 9th best in the country according to the Blue Chip Index. And that is something. So it's like, the old TV show, My Three Sons. I always say this: Uncle Charlie cooking in the kitchen or Gordon Ramsay. And you both have the same groceries.
Right.
It's about moving people around. Everybody talks about matchups. Lauren, matchups on game day. Where do you see Florida having an advantage, offense, defense, special teams against Georgia?
Man, I mean, you mentioned the offensive line of Georgia starting to try to maybe, get healthy. Can the D line for Florida get the push that's necessary to maybe make Gunnar Stockton uncomfortable on those, 3rd and long, 3rd and kind of manageables? Can they get that pressure up front? They were able to confuse, Carson Beck last year with some of those creeper looks and things like that. Some robber. They had Aaron Gates made a really nice play on a robber coverage with a creeper. You saw some of that confuse Blake Shapen. Can they do that? And then can these young receivers win on, like he mentioned, a secondary that's been gettable? Those guys, I mean, nowadays a freshman has played at this level now. Guys like that, they played 30, 40, 50,000 7-on-7 games. They've seen each other. They know each other. Can they win on the perimeter? And can DJ Lagway? I think that's the key there. Get push up front, allow guys like Graham and Childs and Robinson to get downhill, in against that running game, because I think Georgia will try to lean on that running game. And then can the young receivers win against if they're gettable, still a well-coached secondary, Georgia secondary for sure.
All right, Brandon Spikes is back out there in a role. He's definitely an alpha male, but that's what you love about him. By the way, pretty funny over here in Memphis, talking to some friends Saturday afternoon. Ole Miss fan and a Georgia fan. And one of them said, "Hey, I watched that Swamp Kings last week." And my wife, Audrey, popped up and goes, "That's pretty damn cool." Yeah. And she's a fall for life, but we still love her.
Right.
But it's just so funny. That can make a difference. Do you know Brandon Spikes?
Yes, I do. I know Brandon pretty well.
Talk about what he's got to be. See, that's Gator football. That's badass. I love it.
Well, you know, his main role is kind of, I think I would say, like a almost like a mentorship through the
Good.
Gatorade program.
Good.
You know, Brand is somebody who I think, you know, and he would admit has grown from his days at Florida
Mhm.
to the NFL, now coming back to get his degree, and really feels like he can make an impact on young men's lives off the field as
Yeah.
well as on the field. You know, obviously he's there giving encouragement, but what he's doing is setting those young men up to be able to handle the rigors of life, the ups and downs, and still be able to make something of yourself, handling adversity, using the things that Florida can put those resources off the field,
Mhm.
and using those things to continually grow yourself as a person. But you look at a guy like Brandon Spikes, surely this week he can speak to what this thing is about. And
Yeah.
you know, you talk about somebody who you know, they call it, I guess, the chomp stomp or whatever, when Georgia rushed the field the
Yeah.
year
Oh, 7.
before after the first, you know, I think chomp stomp or whatever they call it. And that was,
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm good for Mark Richt, man. I
Yeah.
mean, he made a statement.
Yeah.
And then the next year, Florida came back, and Brandon Spikes, like he said, wanted to send a statement
Yeah.
and gave No Sean Moreno the what for. And it was a totally different game. And
Yeah.
Florida dominated that football game, and obviously ended up you know, winning the national title there. But it's that kind of influence that I think will come back, will start to maybe show. You have Billy Gonzalez, who was part of that, and you have people that understand that part of it. And let me say something about
Yeah.
Swamp Kings, and you may not know this, but Rob, as good as Swamp Kings was, a lot of people said, well, why didn't they talk to Percy Harvin? Why didn't they talk to the Pounceys? I've heard Cam Newton say that, you know, it lost its luster. They asked those guys to be part of that, and they decided not to. So a lot of people don't know that, but I know that for a fact, that they asked some of those guys to be a part of it, and they declined. So
Okay.
you know, so that's always kind of been a thing where it was kind of missing there. But yeah, I mean, guys like Brandon Spikes, others, I'm sure Lewis Murphy has been around the program here lately. I mean, guys are going to come back and be part of that. We'll have Ben Troop on tonight. He's going to talk about what that means. He's a Florida Georgia Hall of Famer. I mean, you know Ben
Yeah.
really well.
Love
So
him.
this is just, it's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I'm going to
Yeah.
say it.
I say it
is
every
what
day.
it is. Yes, I'm saying it. That's what it is. It is the cocktail party.
Yeah.
And before the game, people are going to be partying. And then after the game, one side's going to be partying, the other one's going to be upset. And
Yeah.
it is still a rivalry. It is still personal. And I think it could be a great game. I mean, you look at, like you said, Florida has the roster to compete with anybody.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a matter of, can they execute? And the team that executes the best, I mean, it's cliche, but it's probably going to win this football game.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than you taking a test. If you are rested and your mind is clear, you're good. But if you panic, you're tired, you don't know the material, you start really falling apart. So you look at the way season's gone for Florida. I like that. You've got Georgia, and then at Kentucky, and at Ole Miss, and then Tennessee and Florida State. You know, and that's about to get better for Florida schedule-wise. Just like, you know, for Ole Miss and Missouri, the last 4 years has been really nice. Now it's about to change a lot. Okay. So as far as the Lane Kiffin stories and all, and Pete Cordelli calls Jimmy Sexton, you know, he's the Memphis Big. He really is. He does this every year. You can't criticize a guy that's that successful. You can, but what do you want to happen for the next coach at Florida? Talk about the profile of what you're looking for. You know what wins at Florida.
You got to find somebody that understands the way things work here, and you can't disengage from the Gainesville community. You cannot disengage from the media, and you have to understand that people want to have fun here. I mean, let's face it, the fun and gun is what revolutionized Florida football. And then you had the spread option that came a little later and revolutionized football. But Florida people want to see blocked punts. Not only they want to see fiery defense, they don't want to see catch and play. They want to see go get them. I mean, so whoever comes, they need to bring. That's why I'm such a big Alex Golish guy, because I think he would bring a fun, fast-paced offense that wins. It's winning at Tennessee. It's winning at South Florida. It's won at different places. But someone that understands, people want to be Florida fans want to feel like they're part of the club. They want to feel like that just coming out and saying, well, we appreciate the fans being here. They were allowed. No, bring the fans back. Hold more than one open practice. Open up some things, bring people in so they can go out and say, man, I saw it for myself. This is a good football team. We get to know these young men. Maybe bring back the fan day. I don't know how many college, schools are going away from that, but bring back the fan day. That just somebody, and I think a guy, you throw out names. I think Franklin would be a guy that would be, amicable to that. Mm-hmm. A guy like Eli Drinkowitz, who I saw at the SEC softball championship game, and he's letting fans put glitter and all kind of stuff on him. I mean, so he's engaged, guys like that. And I think, that's where Billy Napier, forget the football, but I think that's where he missed the mark on some things is, as people say in the hood, he just wasn't outside enough. You got to be outside. And that's where I think, forget the football. The football is one thing, and we've labored, we've been on that forever. But you got to be more. I mean, Spurrier's is a restaurant, for goodness sake, and you can go there 2 to 3 nights a week, and guess who you going to see there? The actual Steve Spurrier. So just imagine that, and then you take a guy who just kind of stays away. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, these are state universities. At some point, someone's going to file a class action lawsuit, fans, and say, open up some practices. I mean, you cannot shut out the state. They're state funded. They're state taxpayers. And I'm with you. You want people to feel like they have ownership. I always say a home football game in Gainesville or anywhere is a shareholders meeting. You got 90,000 people there. Every one of them's invested because they bought a ticket. That's the first thing they've done. Some give generously to collectives. Other people can't, but they may have a nephew that's going to one day be a star for the Gators. You better be grateful for everyone that comes in that stadium and thank them for what they do, but back the team. But if you're the head coach, we all know, I mean, I am biased, but, Buddy's pretty important, in Florida history. Yeah. And like my wife always says to people, she goes, if you watch any TV, 30 for 30, documentaries about college football history in the South, there's Buddy in a nice plaid Madras shirt, and Lauren Smith and Tony Barnhart. Those are your patriarchs. Kirk McNair, Bama Magazine, Philip Marshall up in Auburn. These are the patriarchs of Southern football. It matters what they say. Lauren, I know you got to get going. Tell people how they can keep up with you. You got a great show, and I look forward to being on with you tonight. And again, thanks so much for sharing time with us.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can catch us on the Lowdown with Lauren Meadows, 9 p.m. Eastern, every Tuesday night. We'll have my man Rob Brown on. He's kind of like my Ed McMahon, kind of keeps us going. Super producer Brendan Martin. And got to always have great guests. Tonight we'll have Ben Troop, Florida Georgia Hall of Famer, and kind of a treat, Todd Murgatroyd, who coached with Billy Gonzalez for 5 years at Kent State. Yeah. Knew Billy as a young coach, kind of speaking to what to expect there as well. And Ben always comes on with his monthly installment of what's got Troop tripping, and he puts it out there. We have Kicks of the Week, where we talk about a little bit of pop culture with the kick game, as well as Hyper Have At It, where we answer some of the biggest questions in college football. But before I go, Robin, you brought up a good point. If NFL teams open up practice to all the fans and things like that, I have never understood why college coaches don't open 2 to 3 practices during 2-a-days, even in the spring,
you're going to start acting pro? Are you going to start having a pro model? You better start giving
there you go. Yeah, great point, Brendan.
Because you don't get to have it both ways.
Yeah, no doubt.
You want to run a pro program, cool. I'll play by those rules, but but my credential better mean something.
Right. Yeah, no
Chief,
doubt.
look at Chiefs
Because
Nation.
when I go to an NFL game, it matters. I
Yeah.
get treated like a media professional, and they give me access.
No
I
doubt.
go into the locker room.
Yeah.
Hey.
So doubt.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about it tonight. I'm totally with you. Open up the practice. You better invite the people back. Don't push back. Bring them in. All right.
Yeah, sir.
Lauren, I love that. I love that take, man. I will be on there tonight at 8 Central, 9 Eastern.
Yes, sir. All right. Catch us.
All right. Thank you, man. All right. Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline. Catch it Monday nights at 6 p.m. Super Talk Mississippi and Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis. You can hear it everywhere and put the app on your phone. Yancey, I just want to say that was a big-time win on the road at Oklahoma Saturday for the Rebels. There's a lot of stuff going on. Coaches, at this time of year, we always hear it. When you're a good coach, everybody wants you. But big to go on the road against the defense like Oklahoma has. The Rebels took the punches, and they responded back-to-back at Georgia and at Oklahoma. The SEC never short on drama, narratives. Right now,
and where's
Rebels
Lane
in
Kiffin
great
going?
shape. Yeah, Lane Kiffin right now is going to practice, isn't he?
Yeah, I was kind of giggling.
I mean,
listening
Rob, you can
to-
talk about all that stuff, but yeah, what's happening with Lane Kiffin? That's what I want.
I was giggling listening to Lauren talking about what Florida needs, in a coach, and it's why Ole Miss people know it's not a good fit for Lane to go to a school like Florida or LSU for that matter, because that is the opposite of what Lane is. You're not going to have open practices. You're not going to have engagement. He's going to have total autonomy. He's going to go fishing in Boca when he wants to. He's not going to have alumni counting how many golf rounds he had like Freeze. He's the opposite of what Lauren is describing what Florida needs. I mean, if you could get a total polar opposite of what he just described, that's Lane Kiffin. Now, on the coaching side, it's Lane Kiffin, right?
Yeah.
But on the other side, as far as being engaged with the community and opening practices and Spurrier's restaurant and all that, you're not going to get it. You're not going to see him, period. You're just not going to see him. And that's Ole Miss, the family. They don't care. They don't care to see him. They just want to win. They don't care how many days he goes fishing or how many times they see him in the community or how many alumni groups meetings he goes to or restaurants send him there. They simply don't care. And he has that at Ole Miss, and he has everything that he wants in that kind of retrospect. And that's why, it's just he's not a fit everywhere. And at Ole Miss, it is a fit because they just simply don't care. As far as the Oklahoma game, it was a great bounce back victory. They did everything opposite they did in Georgia, which was close out that fourth quarter. They melted down, as we all know, after controlling the first 2 quarters and I don't know what 10 minutes of the third quarter. They had a 5-minute meltdown and gave up 17 points. Some curious decisions by Lane, but they overcame those decisions. And Chambliss played really, really well in the fourth quarter after not playing well in the fourth quarter against Georgia. And, it was a huge bounce back and kind of the game they've been looking for to get over the hump. Georgia, you could say that last year, but they still had 2 losses before that win. Still had to go on the road to Florida, which everybody knew Florida was playing at a very high level at that point of the year. So it's a little bit different feeling because they're going to be probably, I would assume, double-digit favorites through all the rest of their games, and they're all in Mississippi.
Yeah, and it's a great ending. 7-1 right now. There's so many great storylines. Rodney Orr, Tyler and Sider's in here with us right now. Got 2 smart guys, 2 really smart guys. Rodney, man, Saturday I was in the wedding in the church, keeping that score updated. But you got to do it. That was some drama at South Carolina. And I think people were like, you could hear people talking during the week saying, this looks like a trap game. It's just, this is a tough one to go on the road. There's just no easy outs in the SEC. But Alabama went on the road. They didn't play their best game. South Carolina gave everything they had, but they found a way to win. How important is Ty Simpson's 4 years of being in the program right now?
Well, first of all, let me go back to what Yancey was talking about, if you don't mind. He's talked about Lane Kiffin not be fit everywhere. That is 100%. I know nobody knows better than Yancey, but just talking to people over in Mississippi the last couple of years about Lane, 100% correct. I mean, he doesn't care to be seen or be involved in those ways outside the program, just all that stuff. So he's not a fit for everywhere. So that is something that people need to remember when they start talking about Lane going somewhere else, because there are schools that demand those types of things, Alabama being one of them. But with that said, kind of to question.
Man, we lost Rodney there, but hopefully he'll come back. But Yancey, there are so many reasons why Ole Miss is having success like they're having right now. That Grove Collective, you and I remember back in 22 when Auburn and Kiffin were kind of talking with each other, whatever was going on. That ignited the Grove Collective. And I got a lot of Ole Miss friends. I love one of my text threads with some of the best guys, and they're convinced he stays. But Rodney, jump back in here. You were making some great points.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This, the connection down here. I mean, it's we got a little bit of bad weather.
Yeah.
So, but no, I was just saying that. Ty Simpson. I mean, obviously he's matured a lot over the last couple of years. He, like you said, this is his 4th year in the program. So I think a lot of the ups and downs that he had over the course of his career here, in terms of, realizing that, hey, he had to wait his opportunity. I think that's helped him mature a lot, and it's kind of prepared him for this opportunity. And, he's kind of carried them. I'll say this, though, just looking at Alabama, I mean, they've got to somehow, and I don't know that they can do it this year, they've got to develop a run game that can, because you putting it all on the quarterback is, I mean, again, he's capable of making these throws and carrying the team. He's shown that, but you just can't. If you want to win a championship, you've got to be able to have a semblance of a run game.
Yeah.
Alabama does not have that. So I would say that's one of the biggest things I have in terms of a takeaway about this Alabama team. I think eventually, they're going to run into a team that, Ty didn't have his best day against South Carolina, and they were fortunate to win. And they're going to run into teams that are going to pressure him, and he's not going to be able to, carry the team every single game. So that's my biggest concern, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, I agree with that, Yancey. Y'all both look at the leading rushers in the SEC going into the first weekend of November. Ahmad Hardy, he ain't over 1,000 yards. And the second leading rusher is Jeremiah Cobb from Montgomery Catholic at Auburn with like 779 yards. Yance, you think about it. Last year, maybe the canary in the coal mine was when Ulysses Bentley, the 4th, 5th, and 6th, just disappeared. And we still don't know where he is. Robert Stack, what was it? The next Unsolved Mysteries will tell the story of a former Ole Miss running back, Ulysses Bentley the 4th, unknown and unseen throughout the 24 campaign. Talk about your running game that you've got. I think, Yancey, what Rodney just said is one of the truest things I've heard about college football in the SEC and across the country.
Yeah, I mean, Ole Miss had a lot of the same issues last year as what Rodney's talking about with Bama's offense this year, right? Just not a solid enough running game to win those close games and to win the games against teams that can bring the heat against the quarterback, right? That's where Ole Miss struggled last year at Florida, even against Kentucky at home with those 2 mammoth defensive tackles that harassed Dart all day long. LSU was able to get pressure on them with those defensive ends they had last year. So teams like Georgia that don't put a whole lot of pressure on your quarterback, Alabama was able to eat them up. And so it's just really kind of a matchup situation with Alabama's offense right now. What kind of pressure do they get? Consistent pressure on the quarterback as far as how successful that Bama offense is going to be. But that Bama defense is getting better and better week by week, and they're playing at a championship level. Alabama's playing at a very high level right now, but there's chinks in the armor with every school, right? That's what welcome to the NIL portal era. There are no well-rounded teams anymore. And again, it's how well can the staffs hide their deficiencies. That's who's going to win it in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rodney, pick that up. That was a great point.
No,
Serious.
I think it's a fantastic point. I mean, there are no teams without a flaw, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. Now, again, I hear a lot of things about Ohio State. I've only watched them a little bit, but then that opener against Texas, so I know that they're supposedly have a great defense. I'm not really sure about the competition they played, how they've been challenged. But there's not a team out there that you see that, look at Georgia. As much as I admire what Kirby does with that program and how good they are, they've struggled to stop teams at times. So there's like Yancey said, man, there's every team has a flaw, and it's just kind of the way it is now.
Yeah. And then you look at the number of sixth-year quarterbacks that are out there too. I mean, Haynes King has been playing a while. He's
How much longer did he play
before COVID?
Yes, I mean, honk if you for a former Texas A&M quarterback. I mean, it's insane. Somebody described former Kentucky quarterback. That's where he was last week, Zach Calzada, and I'm not the one who said this. I heard Heath Klein say this on the Chuck Oliver show. He goes, no offense, he's a nice young man, and Heath is hilarious. He goes, but he's kind of like that old couch that you put on the side of the street for someone to come get it, and they just won't get it. It's like, okay, but Rodney, you look at Alabama. I mean, the fact that fans get so upset is good because it's not the opposite, which is apathy. That's when you are really in trouble. Alabama, they're off this week. Then they go to LSU. They got Oklahoma coming to town.
LSU comes here.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. LSU's coming here. That's right.
And so is Oklahoma. Yeah.
Yeah. That's back-to-back games in Tuscaloosa. Those are huge games. Then you got Eastern Illinois and then at Auburn. So, you can't look and say, well, that's 4 easily, winnable games. No. They're all every week because Yancey just said it.
Well, they better not struggle with Eastern Illinois.
Yeah, well,
I don't know anything about Eastern Illinois. They may be undefeated, but they better not struggle with them.
Where Tony Romo played his college football.
Yeah, I mean, if they struggle with them now,
yeah, they won't.
But here's the thing. Yeah, so Alabama just finishes the gauntlet, right? I mean, part of the gauntlet. They finished Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee, back to back to back to back. Incredible run. Nobody would have dreamed it after the Florida State game.
Yeah.
We said after the Florida State game, Robin Yancey wrote an article that Alabama's going to face the daunting gauntlet. That's what we called it at that time. Nobody, including myself, would have projected Alabama to come out of that half of the gauntlet or that part of the gauntlet unscathed. I mean, you just couldn't see it then. So they've done a fantastic job. There's no doubt this was a tired football team. I kept hearing that last week, from it. And I've seen Saban's teams in the middle of an SEC run where they were gassed. And I think that Alabama was not making an excuse. They were gassed. It was a trap setup game. That Saturday. They didn't perform well overall until the last, 5 minutes of game, whatever.
Yeah.
So now they've got a chance to rest up, kind of refine themselves a little bit, get ready for this next half of the gauntlet or part of the gauntlet. And you mentioned LSU. They're kind of in a little bit of disarray. Oklahoma's going to bring the best defense or one of the best defenses in the country in here. It's going to be a real challenge. Then you got Eastern Illinois. Then you go to Auburn. First time Kalen DeBoer will experience Auburn. Okay. The burial ground down there. You never know what's going to happen at Auburn. Right. But, really, to be honest with you, and I'm just being honest with you, if you're an Alabama fan, here's what you'd like to see. I think. Obviously, you want a clean sweep of those 4 games. But, take care of business against LSU. Take care of business against Oklahoma. I mean, obviously, Eastern Illinois. Then you go down to Auburn, and, you certainly want to beat Auburn, but if it's not a must game, that takes a little pressure off. You follow me?
Yeah.
It takes a little pressure off to be able to go down there and say, okay, but now that's not the way you want to look at it. I'm talking about as a fan.
Yeah.
At least it makes you feel better. Hey, if you're an Alabama fan, we're going to make the playoffs. If we're 10-2, so they're in a good position. They're in a real good position when you kind of look back and reflect on a couple of months ago in that Tallahassee debacle.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And when you just don't want to look ahead, but all those games are winnable. But they're also look at the rosters. And one thing we haven't talked about, Yancey, on the show and Rodney today is a topic that everybody in America talks about is John Natier's hand. So anyway, I had to get that in. It's such a hot topic. But Yancey, you got South Carolina coming in this weekend. You saw the battle that they gave Alabama in Columbia. The students were ready to storm the field. We had Will Gunner, I know our friend that's on our show a lot, was on with you last night. What'd you learn about Carolina? Maybe you didn't know.
Really just how bad their offensive line and play calling has been this season is
Yeah.
kind of what Gunner and I watched the complete Bama South Carolina game because it came on right as Ole Miss game was getting off and
Yeah.
was able to eyeball them, and I've seen them good portions of other games. I thought South Carolina's defense played a lot better, but again, they do a good job at getting pressure on the quarterback. So it was a good matchup with South Carolina's defense against Alabama's offense. They're whenever there's murmurs that your coach is going to get fired, it doesn't set a good recipe for your team to play well. But they came out despite that and played really well against Bama. They just found ways to lose like Mississippi State does, and Bama found ways to win.
Yeah.
And that it is a fine line now in this NIL portal era. I think every Ole Miss SEC game has come down to one score. If I'm correct, I might be off on that, but I think they have. It's just it's which teams can make those plays at the critical times to win games and which teams don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Both of you, Rodney, let's start play ping pong here. We got about 5 minutes to go before we have to wrap up. What surprises you about the SEC this year? I mean, look at the records of the top 5 teams compared to what we're hearing about the rest of college football. Is the SEC still the king in your opinion? Rodney. Yeah, we got you. Yeah. Is the SEC still on top? I mean, look at those records.
You got me?
Yeah, we got you. Well, we had you. But Yancey, look at that. A&M undefeated. That's they're still in it. Ole Miss 7-1. Look at Alabama with 1 loss. Georgia with 1 loss. Vanderbilt with 1 loss. Oklahoma with 2. Texas with only 2. Again, I go back to Vanderbilt in the top 10. I think the SEC, it's some different. In Missouri with 2 losses, I think the conference is really strong, in spite of all the balance and parity.
Yeah, I think it's probably a wider gap between the SEC this year than the previous years by a wide margin. The Big Ten last year was top heavy.
Yeah,
The SEC was kind of top heavy too, and you take the top 4 from each conference, and they were pretty close. But now you look at it, I think the SEC separated from the Big Ten by a pretty wide margin this year. And the bottom, there is no bottom of the SEC anymore. You got South Carolina, Kentucky, there at the bottom in Arkansas, but they're competitive. Kentucky kind of laid an egg against Tennessee, but we also saw what they did against Texas the week before, and Arkansas, they just they find ways to lose, right? Auburn, you can put them towards the bottom, but they find ways to lose. You look at Arkansas, Auburn, and Mississippi State. They if just 3 or 4 plays, and they're sitting there at 7-1, 8-0.
Yeah.
All those teams. I mean, they find ways to lose, but they are really good teams. And the top of the SEC is so strong. I just think the SEC's head and shoulders above everybody else right now.
Yeah. Rodney?
Yeah, no, I just think the balance. You asked about surprise. I mean, balance.
Yeah.
I think the balance of the SEC, kind of like Yancey out. I mean, it's pretty amazing, honestly. And you talk about Mississippi State losing games.
Yeah.
That call, I don't know how they overturned that touchdown in overtime.
Yeah. Well, Mississippi State finding ways to lose. They're close, like Auburn.
So close.
But Ashton Daniels, they put him in there at quarterback the other day against Arkansas. That kid won 3 state championships in a row, class 6A or 7A at Buford High School, the superpower up there next to Dunwoody and Marietta.
Oh yeah.
And that kid's pretty good. He was at Stanford. He was 5-15 as a starter, but Stanford was struggling. Now they're not. But Rodney's right. A Tighter Insider, it's only $48 a year. Tonight, catch he and our good friend Gary Harris, Tighter Insider TV. Rodney, great stuff as always. Again, it's only $48 a year, people, since 1996. You can't get better coverage on the Tide anywhere, not even wearing a houndstooth hat. You get the best coverage. And Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, man. Thank you all both so much. And we'll do it again next week. I go back and watch these shows, and I take notes every time because these are 2 smart guys. You better pay attention to them. Look, if you got to go out and get a new car, truck, or SUV, Landers Ford, right over my shoulder here, they are open every day of the week except Sunday because they believe the day means more than the dollar. Stopped by to see Brad Bellamy, the general manager, yesterday at Landers when I was out in Collierville, and they've got a huge inventory, a lot of vehicles on the lot. Broncos, all the F-150s, the 250s, the King Ranch. They got the big commercial trucks. Service department is there. They will pick you up, provide round-trip transportation. Great people to work with. And that's a big deal. You don't have to get a ride from a friend. They'll fix what's going on with your vehicle. And lots of opportunities, demo priced at X-Plan pricing. Look, ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager, when you get to Landers Ford, Germantown, and Collierville come together at Poplar and Houston Levy. And they will deliver anywhere, LandersFordMemphis.com. Right down the street, stopped by yesterday, say hi to the folks at Hewlett and Dunn, Boot and Clothing Company. Filson, Better Outdoor Clothes, presents Music Night in the Boot Room, hosted by Hewlett and Dunn. The Park Hillbillies coming up Saturday night, November 1st, in the Boot Room. And, man, those concerts are awesome. Look at all these barber fashions. Golly, they got in so much good-looking barber stuff and Filson and boots for the men, for the women, and for the kids. Duck Camp and all these Filson jackets, the down Filson jackets. You can't get better, okay? And the vest and the boots. They've got these great barber rain boots. They've got the barber, the cutoff boots, when you get out of your waders duck hunting, only $99 for barber boots. Hewlett and Dunn, Pendleton, Schaefer. They've got so much good looking. The purses for the ladies. Man, if you want to make your wife love you even more, or your girlfriend, or your kids, your daughter for Christmas, get out to Hewlett and Dunn. Any time of the year. They've got tons of inventory open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And Rumble Boxing, Union and McLean, Midtown Memphis. How you fight is how you live. Open every day of the week. Boxing, engage both sides of your brain. 45-minute classes with weights and punching bags and great instructors. You will get your money's worth. And Hemp for Pros, people. Pro Athletes Hemp Association. Lights Out Sleep Gummies. 25% off. Use promo code SIDELINES at checkout. Also have the Energy and the Chill. They got the pain topicals, gels, and lotions. They work. I got a lot of friends that are banged up from just life, football, falling off a ladder, or whatever. They got you covered. Our good friend Dave Bartu at Pro Athletes Hemp Association. Look, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed people in the history of the world. Find excuses to win. For executive producer Brendan Martin, I'm Rob Brown. We'll see you tonight on this channel. Thanks for watching.